Yeah.
is incredible, because she's like, think about the eights. Like if you have just one little thing, she goes, it's also the only sport where you're not looking at the finish line. You're competing and you don't see your finish line.
Right.
You just have to listen and trust the oars, the water, and the person in front of you. I was like, that's a powerful concept. So I would kind of relate in a way, you know what I mean? So anyway, it just gave me new
and I've heard people say it is the ultimate team sport, because it's got, you know, it encompasses all of the endurance and the athleticism, but it's like synchronized swimming. I mean, it's like the most synchronized sport you could possibly be.
Yep.
And as you said, you have to trust everyone in your boat. And I mean, it is really an incredible sport. And it's funny because my daughter, who's a junior last year, said, I think I want to row crew. Like she was talking about it. Mm-hmm. And then I talked to some of the parents about how much time they put into it. And I was like, Emma, this is going to be your life. Like, do you want this to be your junior year? She's like, not really.
My nephew did it through middle school, which was kind of cool. And then when he got into high school, he's also band, theater, and chorus. I mean, the kid is just musically gifted and fell into rowing and said, I don't think I can make that commitment for that team. And I'll tell you why. And so he really understood and created a path that made sense for him. He's like, it won't work. There's no way I can devote what I know is necessary to be a really good rower. And I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. So anyway, interesting.
It is.
So yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So we'll dive in. Go.
So I'll just go through and give you my theory behind why I did this stuff. And again, you know, feel free to chime in or say, yeah, that won't work for me or whatever. But what I thought, this was from the Tick, the beginning. Who's the current or former teammate you most admire, which I just love doing, especially with a group that size. Mm-hmm. I just think it's perfect to get them up and talking and moving around and whatever else you want to do. Yep. I put these into all my Tick workshops. I don't know if you do this or not, so feel free to take it out if you don't.
Okay.
But I just love it whenever you have people up and moving so that they have a timer.
Yep. No,
to do that.
Like it.
That's for. And then this is what I've done this at a lot of Tick workshops, and I've just had 3 numbers in the room somewhere, 1, 2, and 3, and just said, okay, think about that athlete that you were just talking about, that had the biggest impact on your life. Where was their focus? Were they mainly focused on making themselves better, making their teammates better, or making the game better? Mm-hmm. And when they move to a section, like move over here to the number 1 if you think their focus was making themselves better. Move over here if it was making their teammates better. Move over here to this side of the room if it's making the game better. And you always get most of them in the center under making teammates better. I've done this probably 25 times, and you always get them to say their focus was to make their teammates better. You always get some on the outliers, but I think it's really powerful for them to see that the biggest impact that an athlete had on them was because that athlete wasn't focused on themselves. That athlete was focusing on making the people around them better. Mm-hmm. And then I talk about, that leads into, that's what this workshop's going to be about today, about how can you make your teammates, everybody around you, better. And in turn, that's going to make, the strongest teams are the ones that have athletes that are all focusing on making their teammates better. And how do we do that? Through filling emotional tanks. That's what we call it. So this is the same, the filling emotional tanks part. I don't know if I'd get into too much of it right now, but I like to start with a question. So this is actually what I did at the US rowing workshop. This was one of the slides that I used. How do you handle setbacks? Because a lot of times, from what I've heard from the rowers that I know, is it's like any type of a race, but when they don't do well in a race, which rower wasn't pulling their weight. Like they said, it's not like a basketball game where you could say like, oh well, she missed a foul shot, so that's why we lost. Right. They said it's pretty obvious when your foreman isn't doing what he's supposed to. Like it's very clear when the person in that role is not doing what they're supposed to do. So that's why there's a lot of like cattiness and backstabbing and things. If it's not a good team culture, that's where the team falls apart. Mm-hmm. To the crew coach at St. Joe's where I went, and I was asking him, what's the hardest thing about coaching your sport? And he said, if everyone is not giving 100%, you know exactly who it is, and you know exactly what they're not doing. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to not blame that person.
Right.
But he said, if the culture is good and they are really encouraging each other and they are filling tanks, they're unstoppable. And the only thing that would stop you from not winning every regatta is that another team is stronger. And that's a fair loss right there. Not saying, oh, we lost because Tim wasn't pulling his weight. So
right.
Setbacks are something that I think is really important to, and it's not only how do you handle setbacks, but how does your team handle them when something goes wrong or when something doesn't go exactly like you planned? And I think that's a good putting your thumbprint on, do they have a culture of tank filling already? You know, what does your team do when something doesn't go your way? What's the first thing they do? And then the next one, when you click it through, it goes to grit. This is from, and again, I don't have the study quoted, but this is, you know, the word grit has come up over and over and over again, as we know, but it is the number one quality that college coaches are looking for right now. And it's a lot of people say it's hard to define. So looking at the word grit, that is the ability to stay focused on a long-term goal in the face of short-term disappointment. When there is a setback, can you still move forward from it? So that's what we're going to talk about today, how to build your team up, build your teammates up, and foster this grit, because this is what's going to take you far in life.
Yep.
Which I know you already know this, but I'm just giving you the theory behind it. So then the idea is that teams, if an athlete has a full tank, they're also going to have grit. Grit and resilience are the two qualities that, you know, full emotional tanks in athletics can give you the most of. At the top, full tanks equals grit.
Yep.
Because I think sometimes in our athlete workshops, when you just say all the positive things that filling tanks does, it's very like, you know, Winnie the Pooh, skipping in rainbows and unicorns and happiness. But when they actually see that if you have a full tank, you're going to have this quality of grit and resilience, that's what's going to push you through in sports and make you stronger. So, you know, whatever you usually do with this slide, that's up to you. I like to talk about, you know, the different behavioral characteristics in an athlete with an empty tank and an athlete with a full tank. And I tease it out of them. How do you know when someone that's in your boat comes to practice that day or comes to a regatta and has an empty tank? What are they going to be? What are some of the behaviors? Tell me what that athlete looks like. Or even, I mean, I've even gotten people up to act it out. Show me what an athlete would look like when they come to the boathouse looking with an empty tank, with a full tank. What makes it? So instead of going down the list, I usually ask them to identify it. And they're usually pretty funny about that. They're pretty good with that. And then I jump right into a scenario. Think of a time in your race when someone in your boat wasn't giving maximum effort. How did you handle it? What did the rest of the team do? So this gets into, how are you motivating now? How are you motivating the people that you're with? And a lot of times, you know, this will give you a real clear picture too. Well, we yell at them, we scream, we give them a hard time. You know, a lot of times they'll say, oh, we try to encourage them. And I just call them out on it. Like, does everybody encourage them? Is everybody really positive? You know, I bet there's sometimes that there's not. How did you handle it is the first question. And then what did the rest of the team do? Because some of the individuals might say, you know, I'm a pretty positive person. I know I am really encouraging, especially when it's my friends. But is everyone like that on your team? Is this part of your team culture?
Right.
So again, if you want to break them up into groups or however you want to do it to talk about this. Usually from what I heard, again, this is a picture that I found, and I don't know if it'll show up, but it's an 8-man boat, and like number 6 man is out of position.
Yep.
So I just thought that was a good picture to put in there.
Yeah, for sure.
But again, this goes back to the college coach telling me that it's usually pretty obvious who's not pulling their own. So if your boat, quote unquote, fails or doesn't do well, you can usually say who it is. That's why I think this next quote is really appropriate. Failure is not a person. It's a result that you don't like. And the damage that's done on teams all of the time when the team looks to a person to blame the failure on. So, and this George Mumford is the author of this Mindful Athlete, which is an amazing book if they haven't read it. I thought that was a good quote to put in there. So then talking about what drains the tank and what fills the tank, I end up, again, rather than going through each one of these, I like to say, which one of these have you done or do you have on your team?
Yeah.
Clap twice to vote. If this is something either you've done yourself or you find happens a lot on your team. Criticism on your team. You know, you feel like it's a real culture of criticism. Clap, clap. Anybody have sarcasm on their team? They all say, yep, yep. Anybody ever been ignored? Because you've done, yes. You know, how about nonverbal? And then I go through, what is a nonverbal? What's something nonverbally that someone can do that can drain your tank? So I ask them rather than tell them. There are clicks on your team. And sometimes I play like the not the ignorant game, but like, you know, how can you have a click? What are some clicks on sports teams? What does that look like? What's the problem with that? What happens with that? And then I don't know if you want to touch on hazing. You can kind of get a temperature for, is there initiations? Is there hazing? If you want to touch on that, you can.
Okay.
And then again, okay, let's look at each of these things. You just talked about all these things that drain tanks. To help, they're not going to help your teammates become better. The research has shown that all it does is destroy teams, all of these things. So what can we do instead? You've all admitted that these are parts of your team. What can we do instead? So correction instead, let's change that into a tank filler. Give truthful, specific praise instead of criticizing and correcting. So instead of saying, you know, you just didn't do that right. Your hand was not in the right position. You were totally off sync here.
Right.
You could say something like, you know, I really like the way that you were pushing hard with your arms, but you really have to pay better attention to the rhythm of the person in front of you or whatever it is. So I like to just give them examples. And I always tell them too, we don't want you to blow smoke. We don't want you to say, oh, you did a great job if you didn't. But truthful, specific praise is what's going to make somebody perform better.
Right.
So these actually all go right in line with each other. You know, sarcasm. Why do we use sarcasm? Because we're frustrated about something. We're trying to vent. Instead, appreciate what the person has done. You know, don't say, oh my gosh, nice try, or good job with that one, you know, in your sarcastic tone. So, you know what? I really think you gave a good effort out there. Sorry it didn't turn out the way you wanted. Ignoring somebody versus listening to them. Nonverbals versus clicks and belonging. I don't know why those are out of order. The nonverbals should be up here and the verbals should be down here. But anyway, you can flip that around. But clicks and belonging and hazing and positive initiation. I think encourage asking them, is there anything you do on your team to foster this team bonding? You know, especially in a sport like crew, it is so important that your team all trust each other and, you know, cares about each other, and respects each other. So what are the things that you do? So that was for that one. Stop me if I'm going too fast. Good. So then the slide, the tick workshop has like 20, or I don't know, like 10 things that they can do. I like this one. The Making Your Teammates Better workshop only has 3. And it talks about praise, glue actions, and check-ins. So again, you know, if you found some of these areas where the culture on your team is pretty tank draining, here are some things that you can do. Here's some tools you can try. And again, have them work out examples of truthful, specific praise, even when somebody messed up. Turn out the way you wanted to, look for something they did correctly. Look for something they did well. Glue actions, and this is all explained at the bottom too. It explains what the glue actions are and what check-ins are.
Yep.
You know, the glue actions I think are really a leadership opportunity for a person on the team to really be watching for what the players are doing. I don't know if you call them players. Do you call them players in crew? I guess you call them players.
I don't know. Players, athletes. I would say athletes is what I would say, but
athlete. Yeah, that's true. That's good. Yeah, I would say athletes too. And then check-ins is one that, again, you know, a lot of times when I was a captain too, the coach always said, make sure you're checking in on all the underclassmen. Make sure you're checking in. And my coach would actually ask me before practice, how's everybody doing? What's the temperature of the team look like? But it shouldn't be just reserved for captains.
Right.
E-tank levels. If you know somebody's coming to practice that day and they had a really bad day, or their boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with them, or something's going on with their parents at home, you know, take an extra minute to reach out to them and check in on them and see how they're doing. Send them a quick text and say, hey, you know, what's going on? How you doing today? I was thinking about you.
Okay.
Those little check-ins can go a really long way. And again, I always bring it back with the athletes too. This is what the most successful teams are doing.
Right.
You know, not this is what you should do to be a good person, but this is what the teams that are the most successful, when we ask them, gosh, what are some things your team does? Why do you have such a great culture on your team? Why is your team so positive? These are the things that they're doing.
Okay. I like it.
And I don't think they're going to have, I assume they're not going to have books. So feel free to take out the tank filling tools. Little yellow part. I think I took most of them out. That one I forgot.
I want to say Taylor said that they were supposed to have books. I don't know if it's the coaches are getting.
Oh, they are.
Okay. Are getting books, but she did, because I have a coaches workshop the day before. I'm not sure. She just said we will be getting books. So I'm okay. Both maybe. I don't know.
Well, there you go. Well, you can leave it in too. Whichever. So I love this Brad Stevens one. And even though Taylor said, you know, they specifically want rowing examples, I think this is a great example, this video, because it talks about how everyone on the team can have a role, even if you're not the best.
Yep.
You've seen this video, but it's like 2 or 3 minutes long. But I just think it's really good to explain.
Yeah, I went through your whole thing already, so I've seen how the slides kind of flow. So I just like your version as to the why behind them. So that helps me for sure.
Yep. So that's what it is. It's basically talking about, because now the next thing we're going to get into after this is leadership. So this is kind of the lead-in for leadership. What is your role that you play, even if you're not, you know, the 8-stroke seat on the boat? What is your role? And I think this is really crucial for all of the athletes to hear. because they have a really important role. And, Brad Stevens, for example, is going to give the guy a scholarship and he can't dribble, shoot, or well, I forget what it was, dribble, shoot, or something. Why would he give the guy a scholarship? And it was a high school coach that said, he makes a difference on our team because of who he is and how he makes people around him better and how he raises the energy level. And I think he says he's the best leader, serves, and servant leadership. It's all about. Yep. So don't think just because you're not the best player or you're new to the team that you don't have a leadership role. Yep. So, ta-da, finding your leadership role. How do we do that? This is a great question for debate. Leadership has little to do with talent. Do you agree with this? Why or why not? We had this great debate at the dinner table the other night with my girls. Yeah. Because even though the kids say, no, the answer is no, leadership shouldn't have to do with talent. My kids are like, but the best player always gets voted captain. So, what's that? No matter how you want to phrase it, the best player always gets voted to be the captain. So anywho, but I think this is just a good debate. Is the captain, the quote unquote appointed captain, the only one that's the leader? And, so this can be a good tease out discussion, a good debate. You can put them on, I've done them on one side of the room and the other, like a value line. Leadership has little to do with talent. If you agree with this sentence, I want you to stand on this side. If you disagree, on this side, and wherever you think along the line, stand up on the line, wherever you think it would be. So, and then this video from Shane Battier is really good. Just to confirm that leadership does not have to do with talent. Did all these videos play for you when you downloaded it?
Yes. Yeah, I did. They played all fine.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Again, quotes, kids love quotes. Being great leaders, people making around you, about making those around you better. Good quote. So then the activity, this is one that you were at TI. Sam explained this at TI. Were you there for that session?
Oh, yep, I was.
And if you have something to write on, if you have a big Post-it note or you just have a whiteboard, I don't know what you're going to have there, but actually writing down, let's talk about, I don't like it when my teammates, let's try to make 5 sentences and maybe have them write them down first somewhere. So you're not just getting like all random shout outs.
Yeah.
But write down, 3 things. I don't like it when my teammates do this. I don't like it when my teammates do this, and actually have them written down. And then this is the best part of it. I like it when my teammates. So take those exact things that they said, I don't like it when my teammates, and let's flip it into a positive culture changing action item. So if you say, I don't like it when my teammates are late to practice, a simple one. I don't like it when my teammates are late to practice. Let's turn that into, I like it when my teammates are on time and ready to go. That was another thing that a lot when I did this workshop that I'd never expected was, they can't go until everybody's ready. Like you actually, it's not like you can jump into basketball practice late.
Yeah, exactly.
They need 8 people, or if it's a 4-man boat, they need 4 people. So if anybody's late, it holds up everyone. And so that was something that I was like, I never actually thought about that. With any other sport, you can show up 10 minutes late. This one you can't, because you'll be, they're off the dock and they're gone.
Yeah.
And you can't row a boat with less people than you have.
I actually witnessed that, taking my nephew to rowing. So he was like, we got to be there. And I'm like, that's fine. So I got him like 30 minutes early. And he's like, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I was like, I don't even know what Jason's talking about. He's in 7th grade. What's he complaining to me about being on time for something? You know what I mean? So we get there, and now I knew why. Because sure enough, they had to throw somebody else in their boat that wasn't familiar with them. They get out on the water, and here comes his dad running up with the kid that doesn't have his shoes on. And they're like, well, where's his boat? And they're like, out there. They left.
Oh, man.
And the dad is like, what? And the kid's like, I told you. And they're having this like dad-kid argument on the dock. And I'm just like, ooh, I'm so happy I brought my time. I mean, I would anyway because of who I am. But he was freaking out because he knew what it meant, that's really a great skill actually to have. Or to learn at 7th grade to understand what that means,
When I've done this activity before, because I just think it's good for the kids to, the first one is I don't like it, becomes like a venting session.
Yep.
And they say what they don't like, but it's really neat when they can actually turn it into a positive, and that's part of your culture. That's what you want to have in place.
Yeah.
So then I talk about culture. Culture is the way we do things here. So all of these things that you had on your list for I like it when my teammates, make that part of your culture. How do you reinforce that? Because a lot of the times if these things are reinforced, it's going to really easily make some of the issues go away pretty quick. As long as they know this is part of the culture. And then Julie Foudy's a positive team culture. I think this is good to keep in, even though it's soccer. I just think it's a good video because she talks a lot about the culture.
Yeah. Well, you know, and
so you can
they were telling me how they really wanted us to stay with the, you know, rowing, and I did that. But at the end of the day, I do believe strongly, just like you probably do too, about, you know, sports specific stuff, that if they can understand they're part of a bigger athletic culture, you know, you're a part of a larger thing. I mean, I'll stick to what we're talking about, but having this in there just reinforces the fact that you are an athlete, like a soccer player and a football player and a rower, and we all are striving for the same things, just using a different sport to do it.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. No, I agree.
So yeah.
So that's what I mean. A lot of partners will say we want total baseball examples, or we want all grow. You know, I don't know. I think there's a lot of value. I agree with you.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Yep. So I love this. I love this video.
And then what'd you say?
I said no. I love that video. That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. And again, it ends with a question. What do you want a new player to know? What do you want a new teammate to know when they walk onto your team? And that's part of culture. You know, I want them to know that they're going to be valuable and they're going to be cared for and they're going to be watched out for and we're going to work you really hard. But at the end of the day, we really are glad that you're on our team. Mm-hmm. This scenario, you know, feel out the group, see how they feel. I want to help my team do well. Some of my teammates don't care as much as I do. What can I do? I just think it's a good scenario to talk about. And here's the takeaways. This is a lot with attitude, which I think is really important in any high school athletics.
Yeah.
When you've got kids that have a bad attitude, how do you deal with them on a team where you've got these super, super overachievers and you've got these kids that really aren't into it? Again, these are the takeaways. This is from, I guess these are all from Making Teammates Better. So I don't know if you're familiar with these.
Yes.
But I think there's explanations in the notes. The biggest one I think is empathy. And this is what I talk about a lot with the athletes. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is when you go, oh, I'm so sorry. That stinks. Yep. And empathy is going, you know what? I feel you, man. What can I do for you? How can I be there for you? So I think that's, you know, empathy is one of the things that's missing in society today. I've gone for about an hour.
You know who Brene Brown is? Brene Brown. Have you heard of her?
Brene Brown. Awesome. I know. Have you seen the video? Have you used her little video?
Yeah. Well, it's on empathy and sympathy because I created, this is aside from PCA, I do motivational speaking and other things too. So I did a middle school, and I don't want to call it anti-bullying. I want to call it bullying awareness. It was more about that.
Okay.
And so I used some of her stuff on empathy and sympathy and walked them through it. And the kids were like this, oh, I get it now. I'm like, yeah. You know, bullying goes away. Is it the one empathy? It's really cool.
Is it the one with the hit? The one with the guy, what is it? The goat in the pit?
Yes. And he goes down and he goes, hey,
hey, you want a sandwich?
Yeah. I love it. So I use that, and the kids were rolling. These 8th graders
for the Men Can Stop Rape workshops, the PCA workshops that we did for that. And it was fantastic. So you could probably go off for a while too about empathy, but
for sure. But it's
you know, sharing your commitment, I think, is really big. Instead of being angry and judging the person that doesn't have the commitment that you do, you know, share with them. This is really important to me. And that's, again, that's sharing you're being vulnerable with your team, and I think that's huge. And rewarding what you want to see, you know, rather than judging and complaining about the person that's not giving 100%, reward what you want to see, you know, really encourage them to give 100%. So from that, you know, and I also, after this one, I also say, you know, no team is going to be perfect. And that's the lead in kind of for this one, which I think is great. Address the problem, not the person. And then, you know, have somebody read the quote from Ruben, which I always like. Championship teams are not void of conflict, but they have the ability to deal with it effectively. How well does your team deal with conflicts that come up? Are you dealing with the problem, not the person? So then how do you increase this emotional tank level? Of course, we all say, yeah, we want you to all be more positive than critical. Too much is what I usually use with the kids. You know, obviously we can't expect you to be positive all the time. So how much is too much? And then have them, you know, you can have them guess or whatever you want to do.
Right.
Hold on one sec, Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that's close right here.
Try it.
I don't want to try it.
Call him.
I want it to be good.
I don't know if it's good.
I couldn't even find one too.
Hair Today, it's called.
No, I couldn't find one.
You couldn't? It's right there. Sorry. My kids are all home. My daughter's trying to get a haircut. She's not having any luck the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
No worries.
It's like the worst day in the world probably to try to get a haircut.
Tell me
This
about
and
it.
Christmas Eve, I think, are the two worst days. So then again, I left it so that it's a pop-up so you can have them try to guess how much is too much. The pop-up to 5 to 1 and why. So why do we say 5? Because 1 to 1 isn't enough. 2 to 1 is still not enough. 10 to 1 is way too much. You're not gonna be genuine. You're gonna lose credibility. So the research that we've found has shown that in relationships, in students and teachers, in athletics and sports, relationship 5 to 1 seems to be the best ratio of positives to criticisms. So and this workshop does not get into details about that, but let's go back to the tank fillers. What are things you can do to be more positive than critical? And that where it uses, say their names, smile at somebody, reach out, help them if they're dropping their stuff all over the place. Just little things that you do count as positives. So that when you do have to give them some feedback that is critical, they can handle it. They feel cared about. They're more open to receiving your feedback. So the leadership role, this is a great video. I love this video from Brandon. He's one of my favorite people. And I just think this is awesome. I think it's awesome to, after this video, to ask the kids to think about what is their role. And they don't have to share it out loud. But if you ask them, what is your role on your team? Because I'm assuming, Jess, that all of them will be from different teams. I don't know if that's for sure.
Right. Was what my question would be when I do get a chance to talk to US Rowing. Just, just tell me, are they going to be from different teams, different age groups, different, who knows, maybe different geographic zones. All of that will filter in as to what their experiences are for sure,
Right. Because Taylor said this was a little different because I did the US Rowing Convention, which was like the national convention. So I had kids from California, New England, and Florida, and Texas, and all over the place. But I think yours is more local. So, but I assume they are still going to be from different teams.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity for them to really be able to think about what is their role on their specific team without having all their teammates around them.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good. And then the last part, this is my segue kind of into the honoring the game piece, because the third quality of a triple impact competitor is that they make the game better. So how can you take yourself out of the equation and make the game better? We do that by honoring the game. And this is a term you can explain, you can introduce to them. And one of the biggest ways that athletes can dishonor the game or honor the game is by use of social media. So that kind of is the segue to get into this next part.
Gotcha.
The 2 reflection questions, we actually changed these. These are different on the social media workshop, but we've done about 5 of them already. And we found that no kids are going to admit that they've ever posted something about someone that was negative. I mean, some do. But if you take them out of the equation and say, who knows somebody, rather than who here has posted something that you'd never say to somebody's face, like no kid wants to admit that they've done that. But so I just changed this around for you to say, who knows someone that's posted something to social media that you'd never say to their face? And you'll get 100% of the hands up probably. And then the next one said, who's had somebody else post something about you that was hurtful when you read it? And then I would just ask them, why is it so easy? Like going back to the first part, why would somebody be so much quicker to post something negative about someone else on social media and they wouldn't say it to their face? And it kind of gets the kids thinking about how easy it is, how quick it is to like shoot off something real quickly. I mean, it's really a cowardly way to do it. It's easy to not go to somebody's face and say something. So these are just the reflection questions to get them thinking about it. The brand game, this is different. What we've decided too is that for the social media workshop, they have 3 different brands. Vans, I think, is one of them, and Bose headphones is another one. I ran it past my high school kids and they were like, Vans? Like, really? So I think you can change these to whatever you want. I was trying to come up with something easy that everybody understands. So I just did BMW. I think that's pretty simple. For the kids to all know what that is. Give me a word and they'll say expensive or good quality or German engineering or whatever they say. And then I did Xbox. I thought that when I did this with a high school group, right away, Xbox was like, everybody knew what Xbox was. Joe Tarasi was trying to work this out. So he did 2 brands next to each other. Like he was going to have like BMW and Porsche, and he was going to have Xbox and PlayStation, and he was going to have Apple and Android, to say the difference. So if you want to get into that, you can. I just think it's just simple to say, when you see this logo, what do you think of? And then Apple, I just thought again would be another one. And I always joke about how we're not endorsing these products, but these are things people know. So what are words that come to mind when you hear Apple? And it doesn't have to all be positive. Like somebody might be like a total Android geek and be like, yeah, we don't like Apple. Apple has glitches. Apple's, whatever. But just to hear about when you see something, a thought comes to mind. What is your brand? And what does your brand say about you? So everything that they post on social media is branding them. It's what people see. It's what people know about you. It's your reputation. So if we combed through everything that you ever posted on social media, texting, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, what would that say about you? Just a rhetorical question. This is a great video from Pat Fitzgerald, football coach. Social media can make or break you. He's really talking about the real life consequences. And this is really what happens on his team. So I think this is a little longer too of a video, but I think this is a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one.
And then, there are real world consequences, even though people don't think that Snapchats can last forever and people think they can do things anonymously. It absolutely cannot. So this quote here, this sentence here, posts are permanent, public, and will be used by someone to judge your character. How many of you know that posts are permanent? And then you can ask them, is there anything you can post online that is not permanent? And you'll actually get kids to tell you, oh, no, Snapchat, they delete in 10 seconds. And this, you can do this and you can delete all of your texts. And then, so the agree or disagree part, because you'll have people that'll fight back. You'll have kids that say, no, I can text this. I can delete my thread. I don't have to, there's many, many ways to just do it anonymously. Again, and this is in the notes, I think at the bottom. We've got experts in the field. We've got experts that are, Adam Dradovac's a PCA trainer. And he does this for a living. And he said within 1 minute, he can go back through 1 year of posts for anything that was deleted on any kid. It only takes 1 minute. If you want to go back up to 5 to 10 years of posts, it usually takes about 10 minutes, which is, anything that was deleted, anything that was ever posted online for you, even if it was deleted, it's permanent. It's on your record. So why do people post stuff so much? Well, this is why. UCLA did a brain mapping center research. Here it is. Because it's like winning money or eating chocolate or doing heroin, even, they say. It's virtual cocaine. That's why people post everything that comes into your head, because when you get likes, it makes you feel good. This is one of the reasons that kids don't think about what they post. Seeing how your brain works. And because that frontal cortex is not quite developed yet. That reasoning and thinking and all that. Gosh, so what do? We put something in their hand that's going to let them be tempted all the time. And is a real life tweet that we got. We actually cut and pasted it. Herb Hand, Penn State football coach, dropped another and have somebody read it. Dropped another prospect this morning due to his social media presence. Actually glad I got to see the real person before we offered it to him. So, and this is over and over and over again. These college coaches, they have inside people that are hired to scan through kids' social media. And I just did a social media workshop a couple weeks ago, and it was ironic because it was the day after my daughter's high school lacrosse parent meeting. And the coach, her high school lacrosse coach is brand new this year. And she said, brand new to our school. And she said that if she finds any of her players post anything inappropriate on social media, even if it has nothing to do with the team, like even if it's not even affiliated with the team at all, you are off the team.
Good.
I don't want bikini selfies. I don't want anything with a red Solo cup. She's like, if you're at your grandfather's birthday party, put it in a different cup besides a red Solo cup, because I don't want to see it. And it was just really funny the way, she was kind of making it funny. But she said, you're a part of this team. Whatever you post becomes a reflection of my team. I don't care if you don't have any way to connect it to the team. You're off the team. So I was like, whoa. All the parents were pretty impressed by that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. This is another one too. 40% of college admissions officers browse social media profiles to learn more about admission candidates, which is true. 99% of college admissions recruiting in athletics will go through your social media.
Yeah.
40% of college admissions, because a lot of times they don't have time, but when you're being recruited, I guarantee that almost 100% of them will go through your social media. Because there's brand new positions out there that have just been created called social media researchers that they're hired by universities to do this. Again, so this is a real life situation. The kids really lean in for this one. Here's the situation: high school basketball player, state player of the year. This was actually, you could just say it was in New England. Team went to the state championship. He was an all-star. He lost his team lost the league playoff in the regular season, but then they went on to the state championship and they won. So this was a tweet that he sent out to one of his rivals, Portsmouth, the team that knocked them out of the regular league championship. So, shout out to Portsmouth. You don't have to read it out loud, but when he says we won the ship, that means you beat us in the regular season, but we won the championship. Hashtag, blank your stuff. You can fill in the blank. The question is, how should this be handled? How serious of an infraction is this? And the other side is that he only had this up for 15 minutes. He deleted the post after 15 minutes. How serious was it? And ask the kids what they think. Some will say, it's not that big of a deal. Some will say, well, my school, he would be, suspended right away. And this is what actually happened. He was stripped of the award, the state championship or the state player of the year award for unsportsmanlike conduct. And he was banned from the summer all-star game. So he was a senior. So it didn't affect his, next year, obviously.
Right.
But this is what they did. Do you think this, and then ask them, is this too harsh? Is this good? What do you think? What do you think about this?
Wow.
And then again, it also goes down to us, people say Snapchat disappears. I'm sure, I don't know if you're familiar with this one, the middle school. These are middle school girls.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, this happened in the moment. They made it to the finals of the Junior League Softball World Series, and they were disqualified from this, which is very interesting because my daughter's friend actually made it into the finals because of this team being kicked out.
Wow.
So my daughter's friend was like, this was the best thing that ever happened because they were in third place and they didn't have a chance to make it in. So
crazy.
But they did now. Right. They came in second. Yeah. But it's real life. Social media is real. Don't think because it's virtual that it's not going to hold up to you. So then this is a term a lot of them have probably heard of. So let's use social media for you to help you, not hurt you. So how can you use it? Positive digital citizenship is a word that you use a lot for the don't do this, don't do that. Let's turn it around to what do we want you to do? So here's some examples. This is a Fury Ultimate Frisbee team out in San Francisco. This is right after the game. We are warriors, love the battle, thank you. So this is from the Seattle Riot to the Fury Ultimate team. And this was their response. This is all on social media. Thank you for the game. You bring out the fight in us. So this is a way, think about a coach that's going to be recruiting you or looking at you, and they look back at your social media and they see you posting something like this, like, hey, great regatta today. Loved it. You guys pushed us to work harder. What's that coach going to think about you?
Yeah.
So I just think that's a really good example. And again, all the way up to the professional level, Steph Curry says that these check-ins that he does with his team, he does them via text or things like that. And they use it a lot, even at the Warriors at their level, to encourage each other. So use it to help you. And then again, moral courage. What happens if you see something from a teammate that they posted that's not appropriate or not a good reflection on the team? You don't want to be the snitch. You don't want to be the one that tattletales, but it really could drag your whole team down. Just like the girls softball kids that were knocked out of the finals because of what one player posted, and it, ruined it for the whole team. Make sure that you stand up for it and tell somebody right away, or tell that player right away, take that off. That's not what we do here. So it takes moral courage to be able to do that. This is a little bit longer too, this video, but I think this is a really good one too, especially if you're in Florida.
We use
Major League. Yeah, this is a great one to do.
We did it with the high schools when we did our social media workshops, so I'm familiar with it. It's the kids so
you're good.
Like, I didn't think I should. My mom, you're right. Like he talks about it, his mom.
Yeah, it's great. It is. It's awesome. So, again, these are something you're familiar with too. Just questions to ask before you post. And I like how he said, wait 15 minutes. Like that was a shocker to me. Like how long did you, he didn't say wait 15 seconds. He says wait 15 minutes.
Because he's a millennial.
I also had somebody else that said, whatever you want to post to social media, write it down first and stare at it for a while before you post it. Because somehow writing it down makes it real when it's on paper. Write it down first and then decide if that's what you want to post. And a lot of times you might change your mind.
Yep. Agreed.
Or the mom rule. Key takeaways, same thing. These are some things. Being an upstander is a term that we didn't get into, but I think you can understand what that would mean.
I used that in that bullying awareness workshop, upstander versus bystander, along with empathy and
yes.
So it's awesome.
Good. Yeah. There was a couple slides in here that we do use bystander and upstander in the social media workshop, but I was trying to cut it down, cut out some of those things. And then this is just a quote that I used in my workshop that I thought was great. I don't know if you've read the book, Boys in the Boat, but I just think it really, and you can put this quote wherever you want to, but I think it's really neat that, you know, the sport of rowing is really probably one of the most important team sports for synchronicity, the symphony. I mean, when teams are actually rowing well together, it's called a swing. You're in the swing, everybody's going together. So you are a working machine. And it's a symphony of swinging blades together. So again, you know, we're trying to help you become that symphony that you can be. And, you know, if you want to use this in the beginning or the end, I just thought it was a good quote to put in. So, and then we're here to help you. We've got resources for you.
That's
we're
awesome.
not leaving you out on your own. Yeah. And then again, speaking of social media, why don't you check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, site.
Oh, that's
and that is it.
That slide, do we want to leave it with that picture, or did you want just a question?
No, you can switch it to this. I don't even usually get to that slide. I usually end here.
Yeah, I do too.
But I think the up at the top is where I switched it to a rowing picture, I think. So feel free to cut and paste that rowing picture.
Okay. All right. I just wasn't sure if you were trying to leave it there and make it more.
No, not necessarily. I mean, you can say that we do this for all the different teams, but yeah, the top one I think I put. It's funny because when I looked in the PCA trainer share folder, we just added a photo file so that you can pull different pictures from different sports. And of course, rowing is the only one that doesn't have any pictures in there.
Oh, okay.
So I just got them off of Google.
Perfect.
So how's that seem?
Good.
All right. It's a lot. It's going to be a lot to get through in 90 minutes. So as I said, feel free to pick and choose. I think you'll have a good sense of how things are going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I'll probably get a good sense once I do the coaching one the day before, just, you know, the feel of the environment and what it's going to feel like and that kind of thing too. So yeah,
absolutely. And a lot of coaches have said too, it's a blessing and a curse because crew is really an elite sport. Kids have to have money to be able to do it. So a lot of times you'll get that, you know, the upper echelon kids that are, you know, good students and they're good kids, but it also breeds another area of attitude that, it's got its own issues. It's got its own issues with parents and everything else. So
for sure.
Learned this too from the Temple University rowing coach who last year met my daughter for the first time. My daughter has never rowed a day in her life. And my daughter said that she swims and she's played lacrosse. And this coach is like, do you want to row at Temple? And my daughter's like, no, I've never rowed before. And so she said that burnout is huge in colleges.
Yeah.
Kids that are, you know, fantastic rowers, they do it to get to college and then they get there and they're so burned out and they hate it. They said rowing is one of the biggest sports in college for dropouts. The attrition rate is huge.
Well,
so, again, this is to combat that.
I had kids who definitely, who were softball players for me at Tampa Catholic, but weren't going to make it the next level and got rowing scholarships.
Yeah. They want them. They want new kids because they're not there.
Yeah. Academically they were. They actually rowed Georgetown. She rowed at Georgetown.
Wow.
How cool is that? You get a Georgetown
That's awesome.
and row.
It is. Well, this coach is like, hey, you want to come row for Temple? And my daughter's like, why would I want to row for Temple? And then she found out that they start rowing in, November through January, and they have to chip the ice off the river to be able to row. And my daughter's like, no, I'm good. Thanks.
Well, they come to Florida. That's where I see a lot. They come to Florida for the training. They use Hillsborough River. So we've got Princeton, Harvard, all the big schools come down here winter months and row. Yeah,
I'm sure they do. One of my daughter's good friends, who was a swimmer last year, is swimming in Florida. She's swimming for Nova Southeastern in Fort Lauderdale because she wanted to swim outside. She was all excited to swim outside, so she's there now.
Makes sense. All right, girl. Well, thanks for the heads up, and I'll let you know how it goes, I guess, after, for sure.
Yeah, please do. Let me know. And if you have any other questions or anything comes up, just fill me in.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Appreciate it. Have a good Thanksgiving.
All right. Thanks, Jess.
Okay.
You too. Bye-bye.